breakfast stuff in here that I need to put outside, and I'm going to do that for you.
I'm going to have my camera off, otherwise internet's going to get worse and worse now that I'm heading further into the Mojave.
Going in the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
Dude, I'm speed running to Hoover Dam right now. No, I'm not even making it to Vegas. I'm already heading straight to Hoover Dam. It's going to end this once and for all.
Oh, really? For who? The Legion? Or are you going independent?
Glory to Kaisar.
I'm calling the police.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's get started. So, I think it's only fair. Enrique, why don't you give us a rundown of last time what happened?
Hope you've been watching those VODs. For a hero point, Enrique, come on.
Yeah, for a hero point. Enrique, tell us what happened last time. All campaigns.
Hero points carry over.
He gets a hero point, not his character. Enrique gets a hero point.
So last time, if I recall correctly, there was role playing, there was dice rolling. There were good dice rolls, there were bad dice rolls. There were people forgetting some of their abilities and people having to look up spells, or having to look up some rule. But overall, fun was had, and things are going great. People, everybody's excited to finish up tonight. The big finale.
Okay, great. I think that is a perfect. I couldn't have said it better, Enrique. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get started, guys. So, who wants to kill a child?
Aiden.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and give us a brief recap? Okay. Probably just what the rest of the group saw. Perfect. And I think it was also general knowledge that the princess not only was asleep, but was slowly declining in some way or another. I think that was also general knowledge that to some extent she was not only sleeping, but she was declining. All right. With that being said, a lot of you have kind of either retired to bed or have had some side conversations with you or other characters. The princess is in a separate room. What's everyone doing? You're getting ready for the night.
I can watch her.
I'll be back real quick.
Yep.
Yes, I've been watching her until this point.
I can watch her if you guys would like.
Alright.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I think I've already gone to sleep.
However you'd like to do it.
So, and that's perfectly fine, Aiden. You'll just miss all the action. It's okay.
Well, it's not all gonna happen at night, is it?
It might. We'll just leave you sleeping.
Just silent night, holy night.
I was injured.
All is calm. All is bright.
I don't think so, but I think I remember saying something about that, maybe, but I don't remember.
I believe that Kate had.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Wait, so speaking of Silent Night, you've noticed that Octavius has been unusually quiet, and he seems a bit shaken.
So, does anyone do anything about that?
What's wrong, Octavius? Cat got your tongue?
Well, you seem rather chipper, considering everything we've just been through.
For the record, Aiden was not chipper before he went to bed. He was very sad.
I don't feel chipper either.
Did she speak to your minds?
I don't
The
think you
queen.
speak to mine.
I've spoken to her more times than I'd like. Yeah.
How could anyone stand something like that probing into you? And I mean, I've had people peer into my mind before and attempt to dominate me, but that was otherworldly. And to think that she's not quite gone just yet, and you see Octavius's eyes peer towards the direction of the princess, and he goes back to being silent and a bit shaken.
That makes sense. Sorry for asking.
The queen is dead. That much I can assure you, Octavius.
Except for the truth is that she is not. She is Ah, this is not over yet.
Call it my Weaver intuition.
Speaking of weaving, I mean, remember when we went to the docks and searching for the princess, and after a lack of success there, Aiden came to the conclusion that the princess would be all right, that she could take care of herself. Well, I've thought about it, and after this revelation of the queen and all that she is, it makes sense that this princess is well, to say a capable weaver would probably be a misaccurate statement. If anything, she's made a god in embryo. It's-
How loud are you guys talking? Can I hear this from my room? I am sleeping, but you can perceive while sleeping, Kate. Well, I could still roll it.
You know what? Out of curiosity, I'm curious. Why don't you go ahead and we'll say it. Go ahead and make a perception check, Paolo. We'll say that it's not only at a -20, but because you're sleeping in a room, it's like at a -25. I'm just curious.
He gets a nat 20. Come on. Oh.
Oh,
So
that's pretty good.
yeah, I would say you don't really get much. You get the, and then you also hear of Octavius, obviously.
Okay, well, continue. I just want to know if I'm hearing you guys talking about killing the princess, but I was at a that's very similar. I'm asleep. I am asleep. Okay.
Lyra, who hasn't gone to sleep yet, that's Rand's sister, is also present in the room, and she gives Rand and all of you kind of a very knowing glance as she says, "You're right. She is a threat." And she turns to you, Iona, and she says, "Do you mind if I be your second this evening? We'll watch it together. I think it's best if she doesn't wake, if you know what I mean."
I don't know what you mean. I'll assume that you're saying that you want her to sleep soundly, but I'm a little bit wondering, are you trying to kill her? Yeah.
Go ahead and do it. Make a sense motive check. You need me to do that for you?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, you're just fine. You don't need to be sorry.
That was the
I will
trial.
do that for you. Sense motive is what you do when you're trying to understand people's motives. She's hard to read. You got a natural 1.
Okay.
Lyra. Okay.
Murderous desires. What do you think my sister is? A
I'm-
Your sister?
Crackpot serial killer? No, I'm sorry. I'm saying that out of character. I was joking. That was not. Yeah, no. Sorry.
Lyra looks at you and she says, "Listen, if anything, I was the closest to the princess. I knew her before what? I guess I knew parts of her. And I understand what you're saying. Seems only fitting that I would watch over her. Again."
I've been thinking a lot about the princess. It's since become obvious to me now, and maybe those of you who weave are a little ahead of the curve and have figured this out long before me, but it's clear to me that it was the princess who disposed of Captain Burns' allies and the spiraling of blades. It was the princess who,
I guess.
and you see Octavius just shaking in his fists, murdered our glorious king, weaving him into his own bed. I know there's sense and wisdom in your words, Kate. I know weaving's part of the solution. I'm very well aware of that. I fear that should we be unsuccessful, should anything happen and she escapes, that the consequences of that will be far worse than what will transpire if we just play it safe and get rid of her now. Even if it does further fracture this city.
Sometimes fracturing makes it so things can be rebuilt in a better way. Sometimes fractures make you stronger.
Together we are the city. We know it. We walked it. We represent it at heart.
I have a question for
Yep.
all of you. So, Rand is a prince, correct?
No, I'm a nobleman.
I was in the middle of a monologue and you bloody interrupted me with a question like that.
I thought that you were done. Continue on.
Continue, Captain Burns, with your.
Well, if Aiden is a prince, then why don't we put someone on the throne who is capable, who we do trust, unless anyone has any objections.
Yay!
I was actually about to ask if Aiden would like to be, if we wanted to retcon Aiden being asleep. So, Aiden, you hear a knock on your door as Kate rouses you and brings you downstairs, letting you know that. Please, yeah. No, not at all.
Wait, what are we doing?
He wants.
Hello. Okay, I will keep that in mind.
It. And by we will build.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so what did you wake me up for? Has the princess woken up or something? Is there trouble amiss?
Yes, I'd
What?
like to proposition you.
Okay, well, what is it, Burns? What have you woken me up for?
So, you are brother to the princess, correct?
I think brother is a bit of a stretch.
Then what are you?
I am a bastard of the king. That is not quite the same thing as a brother of the princess.
You are far more a son to him than, well.
Well, his wife's a tree, so I don't think he gets to be
Just want to
picky.
say, I just want to interject here that when Dominique got that confirmation, she would have a very intrigued look on her face.
So
I would
my
be paying more
proposition is that maybe we make you king. As far as I know, we trust you. Unless somebody doesn't, then I'd like them to speak up. He's welcome to object. But
I am going to agree with Kate here. It is an intriguing thing to be king, but I honestly haven't processed what's happened in the last couple days, let alone thought about being the king. I was always afraid that I might be targeted for this, but I imagine there's quite a few bastards out there. It seems
There are.
as though Aiden's gonna.
You don't talk very frequently, but when you do, it's always golden. That was great. I love it.
Dude,
Thank you.
even the baby laughed at that.
Well, I'm just saying, there's probably a couple dozen out there, and which means if you open the door for one of the bastards being king, the others are probably going to contest
I'm going
and
to
also
hold
try
up.
to vie for the position.
I'm going to hold up the badge and say, it seems like there were quite a few bastards going around. The person who owned this might have been one as well. But I have to say, although I know that the princess has done many bad things and she is not in good shape, and I certainly am not sure that I trust her, it seems as though she might have the force of will and the ambition to do such a role. I'm not sure anyone
Well-
knows what she's done
You
yet.
just see
Ambition
Octavia's
is a dangerous
face
thing.
gradually turn sour as you say that.
Ambition.
So, I was just going to say, I agreed with you before actually talking to her. My goal was to find her and support her goals and ambitions, especially since she would have the most secure hold on the throne. But she seems to want the utter destruction of the city without caring about the people in it.
Well, hold on. Hold on.
She is her mother's daughter.
Well, hold on.
And her mother is part Douglas fir.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let's think about this for a second, because as I was going to sleep and tending to my wounds, I was laying there thinking about this. There was a lot of things I didn't know about the king. I have been doing his work for a long time, so I'm aware of some of his secrets. I'm aware that he wasn't always a good king. You know, he wasn't, and especially after finding out what he did to the queen. And I'm not saying that I agree with everything the queen was and everything the queen did and everything the queen has put this group through. But I don't want to make it sound like the princess's position and the queen's position are not something that are understandable. And it seems as though, even though the princess has done a lot of things that are questionable, I have done a lot of things that are questionable. In the king's name, for example.
So what should we do? Should we exile you?
Well, no, not exile me for what?
Well, I'm just saying. We want somebody on the throne who can be trusted. We
Well,
want someone
I
who we
am
can
not
believe in.
sure. I'm not sure anyone can be trusted right now. I'm not sure we know who all is capable of serving on the throne. And suppose we did put someone else on the throne. What are we going to do about the princess? She's more than capable of causing havoc, and I'm not sure that she would just wholeheartedly agree with us putting some random bastard on the throne.
Well, maybe no throne then. Maybe we could do like a group ownership.
Are you talking about democracy?
Well, it
I agree.
seems like it's going to be bloody regardless.
It may not.
We want more stability in the city and for it not to fall apart. We need to think how best to attain that goal so more unnecessary suffering and chaos doesn't happen.
So let's talk about
I
it.
have a question. Has anyone thought about going to sleep for the night and then talking to the princess in the morning about it?
Could we?
Yes. Okay. Sure. That is a good idea. Do you have anyone in particular in mind that might need to know what my badge does? Okay, so my understanding, my limited understanding, I have only tested it once and I have only really gazed upon it once before then. But what I suspect that it does is that for anyone who has royal blood, as long as they hold it, those around them must speak the truth.
Per the Zone of Truth spell.
Per the Zone of Truth spell.
Mhm.
It it is a fair statement. I do have something to say to it. In times of the past, when kings have fallen ill and their heirs were to take the throne, there have been cases that I have known where advisors were there to advise the young monarch and assume the role of most of the affairs that a king would do and teach the young monarch the ways in which it would need to know to be a good king or queen. And it seems to me, based on what I've learned the last couple days, that the king wanted to be a monarch forever and wanted to use the queen's power to do so. And it seems like either the princess was motivated by stopping someone with such ambitions, or she was merely doing it to get revenge upon him. And these are questions that I had planned to ask her when she woke up. I don't know the princess's motivations completely. I know that she is very capable. I know that she has her mother's blood. And I can tell you a monarch of such a degree might lead this land into prosperity for a very long time. If I'm being honest, I have not yet to process that. I do not know if I have it in me to kill a child. It's a hard choice. It's a very hard choice. It's one of those
Destruction.
I mean, it would be a very similar situation to what the king was trying to do with the queen's power. I mean, it isn't. It would be. It would be, but my issue is that kings are already powerful. Monarchs are already powerful. And a monarch of supernatural power would be nearly unstoppable. But was that so dissimilar from what the king was trying to do? Was that so dissimilar from a king having a wife as he did? I'm not so sure. And I followed such a king for a very long time. For my entire life, I've dedicated myself to such a king. And You're asking me questions I haven't had a lot of time to think about. It's been a couple of hours. I learned this while being swallowed up by Mach and barely hanging on for my life. I find out the truth. And I'm not sure that these are decisions I can make in haste. Like, what is that?
You don't say.
All right. I will motion everyone to get within the zone of truth, and I will hold it up. And what was that?
Dominique would look very sad. Dominique would look very sad at this and nod and say, "That's exactly what I was talking about." I was very disturbed and disappointed to hear it come from her mouth, but she's telling the truth.
We could. Now, I believe that you are telling the truth, obviously. My suspicion is that I know that earlier in our adventure we had come across someone who was possessed by an entity that made them of malintent. It made them want to tear down the city. Are we sure that the princess is not being influenced by anything? Do you know? Yes, I was. I'm not sure. I don't even know what that thing was. And I don't know if I'm skilled enough to do what I did before. When I saw that, I was under the influence of a very powerful weaving drug that now I think may have been the blood of the queen herself.
That's correct. I would need to take a closer look.
What you are proposing to me sounds like you plan to kill a child, or at least imprison or bind a child. Are you saying that she's dying? From what? All right, well, let's get on with it.
Okay. As you go into the room in which he is kept, she's laying on a not a cot, but on a fairly nice bed. You can tell that she is having a fitful sleep. And despite the fact that you almost can see her screaming to wake up, she still is asleep. But it's an extremely unpleasant one.
So I'm sorry. I've been gone for a while. What happened?
A lot has happened, actually.
I know. I figured you guys would probably wait like 1 minute for like maybe he's coming back. Maybe nope. I had to cross Nevada's the state line into Nevada, and then my internet magically reappeared.
Okay, what happened was they woke up Aiden. Aiden came downstairs, and Kate made a very long speech which the crux of is she wants to kill a child. And Aiden wants to figure out if said child is under the influence of bad juju. That's basically what happened.
All right, can I get the other side of this story? Let's.
Which is news to Aiden. Aiden just thought that she was injured and would recover. But anyways, I am going to assist in this. Can we just take a 20? Honestly, we have the time, don't we?
You can go ahead and you can take a 20. You can take the time to do it to delve into her.
Rand should do it. Rand should take a 20, and I will assist by also taking a 20.
Okay. I'm just going to make a couple of quick rolls. Okay, cool. All right. Rand, you can go ahead and make your roll.
I'll ask Lyra to assist me as well.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
I'm just taking 20, right?
Yeah.
That's a 40 total.
Okay, and so with both you and Aiden, or with Aiden and Lyra, that's a total of 44. As you glean into her, there is try how thematic I want to make this. So taking a 20 to delve into somebody isn't just you glancing into them or getting a sense of who they are. In essence, Rand, as you touch this 11-year-old girl, you feel transported into her very soul. And you have kind of clawed your way through different pieces of who she is, who she thinks she is, and have made your way to the core. And visually, you see yourself in what you can only imagine at one point in time was a very beautiful garden. And sitting in the center of the garden is a girl wearing, a white dress. You see parts of her are, maybe a little bit too big for her body. You can see that her, she's kind of in the middle of puberty, and pieces of her are growing, a bit awkwardly. You can see that her arms might be a little bit too lanky. You can tell that, that her hair is kind of in this, in a state where she's not too sure what she wants to do with it. And you can't help but feel this sense of sympathy for someone who, this is who you can see that she is at her center. Surrounding that, you see in her hand, though, is a knife. And as she looks at you, you see she keeps flicking the knife between herself and the world around her. She looks at you and she says, "Something's wrong with me. Something is eating my dreams. Something is devouring everything I am." part of me wants to let it. And now I don't know whether it should be me who dies or the world. And you see that tears start to roll down her face. And she looks at you and she says, every minute, I'm afraid that the choice is going to be made for me. And I'm afraid. You kind of zoom back from this. And you see yourself almost inside an hourglass. You see little black drops slowly filling up this almost hourglass-like prison she's kept in that seems to slowly be zapping away not her life per se, but her will to live. Something abnormal, something foreign to who she is, foreign to just in general. As you push back against that, there's almost this strange and horrific cloud of pain that layers everything, of hurt, of memories. And then, as you bring it further, it's specifically Aiden's aid that you feel as he catches a memory. The memory was only a couple weeks ago. And you see her inside the cabin of a lonely ship as she was considering running away. And the door opens, and there, standing at the entrance, is Aiden. You see him offering his hand to help her, offering to keep her secrets. And you see that above all these other memories, this one seems to cling. That piece of her, that core of who she is, that piece that sees goodness in her, is swallowed up in this one moment of someone, this Greycloak, who had sworn to protect her father, instead choosing to protect her. As you pull out, you feel more tired, more exhausted than you've ever felt before. And as you do, you feel tingle run through your entire body, and the smell of flowers fills just your entire kind of sensory area. It kind of permeates the entire room, but only just for you.
Harley?
Sorry, what were we looking for again? I saw a great many things. What is it that we were looking for again? No, she is not. The Queen hasn't taken over her. And she's still there, very much aware of what's going on, terrified, waiting, watching. I've already said this has nothing to do with the Queen's influence. I just told you what I saw.
I did feel as though that there was a memory one me and her had together that she was holding on to. I couldn't see much of what was going on, but I got the sense that maybe there was something to save in there. I wouldn't know how to do it. I'm not sure what we can do. Do you think she'll ever wake up? Did you get a sense that she might wake up?
The problem, Aiden, is that even if I can save her from whatever ails her, the larger issue is what she's going to do when she's awake. Whether I can save her or not, that is the larger issue.
Lyra looks at you pointedly, and you can tell that she's waiting for you to go.
I can tell that what?
You can tell that Lyra's looking at you pointedly and is basically waiting to see if is waiting on your cue.
I'm going to nod towards Lyra, and I'm going to say, we'd like to try something. I don't think it's ever been done before, at least. It could potentially solve both our immediate problem and the overarching problem with the princess. I don't exactly know what's going to happen. This is new territory even for me. And yes? I'm honestly not sure how to put it. If I could just talk to her, that would help me make a decision. Within her soul, where she can't hide behind words, where her feelings will be laid bare. Or she has no choice but to be honest.
Rand, you know what power you're dealing with. I'm not talking about weaving. I'm talking about her. She's half of her is her mother, and that's hardly one to trifle with. You'll be exposing you. Your soul will be bare, exposed to whatever powers unbridled that she possesses.
Then I have your full confidence to stop me should anything go wrong.
After all we've been through, I won't take pleasure in that.
This is a risk I'm willing to take.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Is
What are you
there
gonna do?
anything that we should know? Anything any of you would like to tell your Lyra before we begin? No. I'm going to speak to her first, and then I'll decide what to do. Well, she's sitting right here, isn't she? Shouldn't be difficult to put her down.
Okay.
Hopefully, it won't come to that.
All right. What are you doing?
Okay. I would like to. May I take 20 on that with Lyra?
Sure. I'm going to make another couple rolls real quickly. Okay. All right. As you take a 20 and as you dive back in, now with greater intent, you're not just looking to kind of stare in to observe. You are now almost becoming a physical entity in her world. As you enter it, you can tell, because again, taking a 20 takes a lot more time. You're taking each time you take a 20, bear in mind you're like taking, maybe 20 minutes to half an hour to really dive in deep into to sort through everything that's there. And as you dive in, you can see that the garden around her has, even now, considerably withered. You can tell that as she sits on as she sits in the middle of this garden, she no longer is kind of flicking this knife back and forth. She more just kind of cradles it and rolls her thumb across the blade. And as you get closer, something kind of enters your own. I would say, actually, before I say anything, go ahead and make a sense motive check, as you, for all intents and purposes, are now present fully before the princess. Okay. As you approach her, something you get the sense that something's off, but what's off is more human than anything else. You can tell that this precipice that she's been on, she is on the cusp and that you can tell within the next maybe 10 minutes, maybe more, she's going to attempt suicide. Whereas beforehand, you had got the sense that there may have been a little bit of a back and forth. Now it is clear what her intent is.
I'm going to take a knee in front of her with Lyra. Does she say anything?
She kind of moves her head a bit, and give me just 1 second. Okay. So she looks up at you, and there's a relative sense of clarity. And she turns her head and she says, when my mom, one of my only memories of my mom was when I was young. And she knew of what I could do, even when I was a small little girl. And there was a time where I had buried myself deep inside the stones of the castle itself, and no one could find me. I was tantruming. I don't even remember for what, but I remember she put her hands on the stone, and she knew that I hadn't just become part of the stonework. To some extent, for at least briefly, I had become the castle. And there was that moment of both pride and maybe a little bit of fear. But I remember that she came and talked to me like this. I know what you are. I may even know what you're trying to do. I don't even know if it's worth it. What do you have to say?
I look at Lyra for a moment and then I look back. Rand looks a bit lost in thought as he carefully ponders what he's about to say next. I suppose I've yet to make that decision. You haven't made it very easy.
That's fair.
But I'd like to know why this city? Why everyone in it? The people that betrayed your mother, sure, I can understand that. But why should the whole city have to be destroyed? Why should so many people that had no involvement, that are completely innocent, why should they have to die as well?
Good question. I think we take a more mature look at it. Oh, there's a fair amount of pettiness. I think part of it lies in, at least in part, in the entertainment the city partakes in. I mean, how many plays, how many theatrical performances have been done by that damnable cat and his troupe of terrible musicians and actors. And in some way or another, something always is brought up. Something is always alluded to about your mother and her death, and how great that death was because of how great it made the city. Think about all the people in the city who are related to you, your brothers and your sisters, because of an ill-begotten king who wasn't satisfied with a queen that could make him immortal. Think about all the petty organizations and fights and things that broke out because they wanted a piece of who my mother was, because they valued the power that it brought them, but not the woman behind that power. The most powerful organizations that run the city, all of them, in some way or another, were, at least in part, responsible for her imprisonment, responsible for her exploitation. And almost everyone in the city benefited from it. How am I supposed to walk down the streets or lead a city that I know was built on my mother's blood? Literally built on her blood.
The people that lusted for your mother's blood, for her power, again, I can understand your want for revenge. But the people, citizens, everybody else, even me, I didn't know that. We loved our queen, we respected our queen, and we mourned her when she died. We weren't there hounding over her blood in closed-door meetings, wondering how we could use it for our own personal gain. I suffered from your decisions, and I didn't deserve to suffer because of somebody else's actions.
Go ahead and make a diplomacy check. You're actually a pretty decent diplomacy. Okay. You can see that there is a bit of her that starts to turn. And she looks at you and she says, "Do I regret what happened? I do. There are a lot of people who are dead by my hand. My father included. And to top that all off, now we have some people who are close to me who most likely want me dead. There'll be others who will want what I can do. And who's to say that I will even be better than my father. And not just become more of what he was.
You are the one who decides that. This is your choice, and I'm not going to make it for you.
Okay. Go ahead and make one more diplomacy check for me, please. I'll go ahead and, because Lyra is with you, kind of providing you that support, I'll go ahead and give you another +2 to it as well. Okay. She looks at you. And she says, actually, I gotta send you a quick message. All right. For the sake of the city, if I was to return to prominency, if I was to even dare to become what I once was, or to take up what is expected of me, then those, at the very least, those primarily responsible would need to be held accountable.
Of that, I certainly have no problem with.
And with that, I would argue that the banners and the factions that, whether knowingly or unknowingly, provided aid in what happened to my mom would be at the very least disbanded.
All of them.
It was the church that exploited her blood, that drained her of her very essence. It was the clasp that ferried it through the city and out of the city. It was the weavers that used it in their research and their experiments. And finally, it was the Grey Cloaks that hid it. I wouldn't say they would need to be killed. But I don't see how those organizations as they currently stand could be or could remain.
Why not find those responsible? And then build something better afterwards. Dissolving the bonds is only just going to let the same thing rise again later.
Okay. You can make one last diplomacy check with that. As she looks at you, there's a very subtle nod. And there's a pause, and she looks to you, and she says, whatever you're going to do, you should hurry. And at that, you find yourself brought back in the room amongst your friends or allies.
Were you successful, Rand?
He didn't say anything for a good little while. But then Rand speaks up. She has a proposition, albeit a strange one. Instead of the city and its destruction, she'd like for all of the organizations, the church, the clasp, the weavers, everything to be disbanded.
Did she say why?
That was my sentiment as well.
Disband all of them.
Did she say why? Is there a reason why they should be disbanded? But surely, well, wouldn't that be enough? She said to disband these organizations. I'm guessing the reason why she wants them disbanded is because they had a hand in whatever happened to her mother.
No, but they're still out there, you see, and so are the people that are responsible. And who's to say that one night, on a bad day, she realizes that they're still out there, that the people that are responsible still haven't paid the price that they should have, that they got off easy. And what's to stop her then, when she's older and stronger and smarter?
Well, maybe these people should be stopped. I mean, the Grey Cloaks previously were in the position to keep secrets. But maybe we should be in the position of killing those. Yes, and killing those who keep them. Well,
Anna's right. These
I don't
organizations would still exist in different forms, and if they didn't, then it would just be a power vacuum to let something more chaotic in.
Well,
They're
I don't think
inevitable.
that
There will always be weavers. There will always be criminals. There will always be
I agree with that, but
religious zealots.
I don't think that she's against criminality in general. It sounds like to me that she is against the people who did this. Did she did she say
Smarter than
that
you
she
think.
wanted I would agree with you if this is what she wants, but I'm also not sure that it would be the wisest choice. If you had a powerful being with a reason, a motivation to get revenge against an entire city, would you want them to walk out and gather as much power as they wanted and potentially come back and do what they will? Well, it isn't. I am not sure I agree with you for a couple of reasons. The first one is that suppose suppose we do what you say. Are we going to solve the corruption in this city? Or are we going to put another king on top with all of these organizations going around seeking power and doing the things they do to get such power? Is that something we really want to occur? Are we just going to I am not sure I have so much faith in us. I mean, not to discount people in this room. Not just the Great Cloaks. Is the population aware of what the princess has done? Do they know? Well, it is my opinion that we should have a bit more faith in the princess. And if she thinks that she can, with our advising, rejuvenate the monarchy, and we can hold trials and investigations against those who have wronged her and wronged her mother
Riles, don't be naive, Aiden.
I think I'm against the princess being on the throne.
We'll be there to stop them.
I
And you
agree
keep
with Rand.
speaking of this circle, Saana. I've been in many such circles. You can fight your way out of them. I'm a weaver. I'm no stranger to persecution. The church has ever sought to harry us at every single moment, to get the common man to come and beat us to death in the square. They've called for that very same thing. I'm more than just a mortal.
Are you so sure that the city is going to be so upset that the princess, the rightful heir to the throne, is now the monarch? I am not so sure. I am. And we and we well, maybe things should change. I can tell you that we did not protect the queen to the best of our ability before. We should not have allowed the king to do what he did. I feel complicit in what the king did. We all should feel complicit in what the king did. And the princess is right. She's right.
No, we should not feel complicit in what the king did.
Our
You
organizations
were
were part of it.
manipulated by him. Yes, they were.
Okay, well, I can agree
Didn't know
with you
about it.
that we were manipulated. But we should have done better. And we should create organizations that can deal with this. Maybe they shouldn't be the Grey Cloaks. Maybe they should be something else. Maybe this is the time for reform. Maybe this is the time for us to change things. I'm not saying that we need a more inclusive society where we have more people deciding what the laws and such are. That is not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting that we should make the monarchy that we have now better. We should make it what it should have been to begin with, not some despot king sucking the life out of his wife to live forever. So what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting a new royal line, or are you suggesting some sort of assembly? Well,
We don't have much time. I'm going to talk to the queen again, or I'm going to talk to the princess again. I'm going to, with Lyra, Cameron, I'm going to go back inside.
I am not going to.
Say again, Aiden.
I wasn't talking to Rand. I was going to say I am not going to let someone kill a child tonight.
Okay.
That is not what's going to happen.
Well, it sounds like we all agree that if she can live, we want her to do that. The debate is whether throne or exile, and we can decide that once she's actually alive and safe, correct?
I think Sienna's afraid that once she's alive, she'll tear us all apart.
Well, I mean, I heard what she wanted to do with the city before. Yes, if she can be brought back without destroying the city or without putting the city at risk of what she wanted to do with it before, then that's what I'm for. But we can't plunge the entire city into destruction over her.
Well, I, for one, am willing to do at least partially what the princess wants. If she wants to go after those who have wronged her and this city, I think that that isn't a reasonable thing for her to ask. And I think that is a
I agree.
reasonable thing for her.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. As long as the focus is on the leaders of the organization who actually had something to do with this and not everyone in the city or everyone in those organizations that would, again, just reform if they were burst apart. As long as the focus, as long as what she wants done is focused in a healthy way, I agree with you.
I think why focus on the threads that need to be cut for a person who may not be the ruler is silly. Why not? Can't we just put someone who isn't a wild cannon and trustworthy and actually focus on making a new and sturdy form of government?
That would be good, but we'd have to figure out who and how. We'd have to get someone who the city would support, and considering there's only one legitimate heir, I don't know who that would be. And we'd have to get someone who we consider trustworthy, and I'm not sure who out there is both trustworthy and someone who would get acceptance by the city at large.
And also, how are we going to invent a new method of governance? Do we even know another method of governance?
Out of curiosity, just because Octavius hasn't really spoken up much, Octavius, did you have anything you wanted to add to any of this?
Absolutely. Aiden, I believe you're trying to distract us from the here and now. You're bringing up so many future events, things that don't need to happen now, but maybe need to happen later. Insinuating that if we don't have the answer to those later questions, that we can't decide what to do right here, right now. Your affection for this child, it's taking you away from your capacity to help us to make a needful decision.
Well, I do think that killing a child or letting a child die is not the proper way of a council, like the first decision a council that is going to be ruling a city should do. But second,
I agree with that.
the second thing is that her wishes are just to take care of the corruption that already exists within the organizations in this city that we all participated in. That is something we need to do anyway. And whether or not she becomes the new monarch of this city is a secondary point. We should allow her to figure what she wants to do after that. We already want to do what she's asking us to do, so let's just agree to do it. And whether or not she decides to be the monarch or not is up for a later debate. I just think that if the decision that we are trying to be forced to right now seems to be the one of whether or not we allow her to wake up. And I don't think that is the decision that should go with her cherish it. I just
You speak with such self-righteous dignity of rooting out the corrupt heart of this city, as if the city could even keep its balance if you took out its foundations. Aiden, you're a gray cloak of all things. You know, if Captain Burns, as upstanding of a citizen and as hard-working and ethical of a captain as I'm sure she is, even she knows that if she were to succeed in rooting out and dismantling the entire underbelly of the city, it would, I mean, maybe this is the least of our concerns, but it would surely crash the economy, leave it in shambles. The city guard simply needs to
Yes.
stop those things that reach the surface, but the underbelly is left untouched just because, sure, maybe innocent lives are lost in the process, but how many? And it's very few lives, and it brings salvation, grandeur, stability, prosperity to the rest of the city. There's a reason why the church, in their attempts to popularize morality plays, there's a reason why they didn't gain much traction, much popularity. It's because the city is not a fairy tale. These people are not saints. This is a land of sinners, a land of self-interest, and unfortunately, the way that the majority is helped and lifted up is by people pursuing their innermost passions. And some are left in the dust, some are scapegoats, some die. But the result is something beautiful. It is like a bush bearing fruit that if you leave it to its own devices, if you were to let it just grow on its own whim, it knows not how to stop growing. It just branches out, and it knows not how to let everything function properly. It focuses so much on extending itself across the garden. Not only does it forget to bear fruit of its own, but it prevents the rest of the garden from growing as well. It chokes out everything else. But if you cut those branches, if you prune it, then it becomes a wonderful raspberry bush, bearing fruit regularly. It is reliable. Sure, it involves a bit of defacing, but it's exactly what the people want. It's exactly what the people need. They want a bush that bears fruit, and that's what this city is. That's what this king has created. I know he is not perfect. He was blinded by his godlike ambitions of immortality. And that was the one flaw in the equation. If you take that out, if you just take out that one factor, it's perfect. If we could have a monarch that continues the legacy of this king, yes, there will be corruption, but it will be a city more perfect than it ever was before.
Well, I never said that justice was perfect. And I'm not against the idea of pruning. I just think we need to prune some certain branches greater than others.
You speak of pruning the roots, but you don't realize it. That would lead to the death of the city.
Yeah, I do that now, Cameron.
Okay.
Technically, I did that before everyone started talking. By the way, just in case that affects anything.
I imagine actually he's as you two are talking, but Rand already has his hands under and is going through the process of making his way into her. Okay. This time that you go into her, it's a lot different. There's no garden. There's no cacophonous cloud of memories. There's no hourglass. It's black. And she sits there in her white dress. And you see that there is a bead of blood on her thumb. And as she looks up at you, there's almost a look of relief. And she says, "It's almost time. It's almost time to wake up."
Indeed, Highness. Listen to me closely. Should you disband all the organizations, those people will still be out there, the people responsible. Should you destroy the city, another will rise up in its place. And the exact same thing will probably happen, maybe even worse, to more people. Or we can make it different. We are in the place to make a different kind of kingdom. We can right the wrongs that were done here, and we can prevent them from happening again. And that's not going to happen with the destruction of the city. The city needs to be refined, pruned, reforged, whatever you need to call it.
And what would you have me do? If I wake and I'm still alive, what would you have me do?
Avenge the death of your mother. Ensure that those that were directly responsible pay the price for what they did. And then we ensure that that never happens again. That we make a better kingdom. And I will use a hero point for diplomacy.
Okay. She looks at you, and there's a moment of both clarity as well as caution in her eyes. And she says, "All right. I'm trusting you then, Rand. But trust me in this. It was one of your number who put me to sleep. But they let me wake."
Sorry, can you say that again? Everything
Mhm.
cut out.
Yep. She says there's one of your in your number that put me to sleep. Would they let me wake? And with that, you'll come back out of it.
So what does she say, Rand?
You'll help us make a better kingdom. We'll punish those that were responsible for the Queen's betrayal.
You.
There's something you need to say, Octavius?
What has overcome you?
I am going to wake the princess. Does anybody have any objections?
Absolutely.
Yes, because I've seen her soul. She cares about life. And if she cares about avenging her dead mother, then she's going to help us right those wrongs and make this kingdom a better place, lest she spit upon her memory. Yes,
Who poisoned her?
we will.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. So easy enough. I would say that that's going to give you a +5 to your roll. If you want to go ahead and roll your weaving check.
Okay, will Lyra assist me?
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be +2.
38.
Oh, that was a natural. Was that a natural 20? No, it was a 16.
No.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. So 38. Um, you take a moment and run your hand, across her body, where her lungs and where it has started to affect, the back of her throat and her mouth and up through her brain, and you see this almost smoke-like substance start to eke out of her body and then drip onto the floor and evaporate. The process takes, several minutes. Okay. Um,
Seeing Sayana do that, I am going to also cover my mouth.
Yeah, me too. What the?
While everyone is focused on this and really distracted, I'm going to cast message and send a message to Dominique.
Okay.
Does the princess awaken?
After a couple minutes, there's a brief moment where she wakes, and you can tell she's very disoriented.
That was crazy. And I would agree. I think Savannah's young. Know how to use it in the airplane bathroom. Like,
Jake, you got crazy background noise.
did you hear that?
Thank you, Jake.
I will take her hand, in my hands, and I'll say, one step at a time. We'll do this.
With that, we are getting close to the end of the night. There were 2 or 3 things that I wanted to do after things concluded. I kind of wanted to go into almost an epilogue of sorts, kind of give people a chance to do a couple of things, either off screen or kind of what your character would do to wrap this up. I also wanted to hold like a brief kind of like, hey, this is what my character was. These were my motivations were. These are some of the secrets that either didn't get covered or things like that. If anyone wanted to talk about that. But with that being said, did anyone have anything else that they wanted to do before we do kind of an epilogue for each person? I think to some extent that could be kind of part of the epilogue portion. To some extent, especially because of your current position held, and you were already present in her life. If that makes sense, I think that could easily be wrapped into that, just so that we have time for everyone to have a brief kind of explanation of what they would have done afterward. Yeah, if that's all right with you. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and mhm, mhm, right. And I don't disagree with you, and I think that is really interesting. What I was going to kind of do is have everyone kind of break down kind of their epilogues, and then I would give a small epilogue of some of the more prominent characters. So, and I can factor in your roles into that as well. Mhm. Okay.
Okay. If Saana does say that, though, I am going to say as Rand, though, that um, to avenge her mother and to truly honor her memory, she can do that by making this kingdom a better place, by setting an example, by being better, by building something that will never be like the old kingdom was. And
Okay.
she may take that how she will.
Okay. Perfect. What? Who wants to go first with their epilogue? Idea. Okay, that's fair. I'm really curious. Actually, I would like to some extent. I think it'd be kind of fun to actually go in the same order that we did our prologue with.
Yeah.
Opposite order. Yeah. I kind of like the mirror idea of having it be mirroring what we did before. So let's start off with Octavius. What would be, the last, either last words you'd say to her, slash what would be the upcoming days and weeks for Octavius?
Oh, so hold on. Could you repeat that, please? Sorry, cut out for a
Yeah.
second.
Uh, no, I was going to say after the epilogue. Yeah. So, Octavius, I was just going to have you briefly share kind of any last words you'd have for the princess, either to sway her one way or the other, of what she should do or where she should go, as well as what would be the upcoming days and weeks for Octavius.
Well, actually, this is very hard for me to figure out because it sounds like the princess would very much want Octavius dead, and I honestly don't know how I could come up with my own epilogue without maybe getting some hint of.
Hey, was Octavius directly responsible for any of the stuff that happened with the queen?
Right. I talked her out of just blind vengeance, so you're probably good on that front.
I was going to argue with Rand. I think a lot of where her frustration with you came was that essentially a lot of whether intentionally or not, a lot of the imagery from the plays that not only you created but essentially she was forced to go to were almost direct mockeries of the exploitation and death of her mother. And so that had been something that had impressed her greatly growing up. And so I would say, especially with Rand's hero point, I would say you as a person would definitely be would be Mayhold, and you could potentially pursue that, either persuading her Lexana to leave, potentially persuading her to instead join you in making a new round of plays or of things like that, or potentially some other avenue that interests you.
Okay, so I think I've figured out what I would say to the princess. So the princess, when the princess wakes up and she's delirious, basically Octavius was in the middle of sending a message to Dominique. And Dominique, are you okay if I share the contents of that message just for the audience?
Sure.
Sorry, one moment while I pull it up for a second. Basically, Octavius said, "The other night I asked if you believe what you see. You said yes. Tell me, what do you see when you look at this girl?" And Dominique replies, "I see someone deeply hurt and young enough to not know the best way to handle that herself." And Octavius replies, "So, how can she handle a kingdom?" And Dominique replies, "How could anyone else? With a lot of guidance, I'm not sure there's a stable alternative, unfortunately." And then Octavius was about to reply to Dominique, and then he sees that the princess is waking up, and immediately the thoughts of the queen and his interactions with her. Octavius had so much confidence, and he felt so, not just confident, but competent, very capable. And while he has experienced shortcomings, while he has experienced people dominating him on the short term, but Octavius rose out of that very quickly. He was always able to come out on top, and an assassin would attempt to get him. He would either get them killed or get the assassin to realize just how mutually beneficial their relationship could be. Octavius was a man who eventually he made some ties with the Clasp. He felt that he was on top of the world. I mean, even those bad stealth rolls, he didn't realize how much of a liability he was. He thought that he was doing everything just fine. It wasn't until his interaction with the Queen that he realized just how vulnerable he could be, and by extension, how vulnerable the city could be should the Queen take over. And seeing the princess wake from her sleep, seeing her not as the princess, but as an extension of the Queen, his heart was immediately struck with fear. And instead of casting message to Dominique, he accidentally casted it to the princess. And while his message dialogue was going live, essentially, this part inside of him who's not only afraid of the Queen, but even afraid of himself. These years that Octavius has just been corrupted by his own greed and ambition and psychopathy, finally came out and looked at the princess awestruck, in fear, but in deep sincerity, and sent to her via message, "Kill me now, please." And then suddenly his face goes back to his normal expression, the calm coolness of Octavius's cat self, and he pulls back his fur on top of his head, and he sends message to her again and said, I'm sorry that you had to see that. I wasn't quite myself for a moment. And Octavius would avoid the princess for quite some time. Octavius would eventually deliver his magnum opus.
And what would the magnum opus be called?
Well, it would be called "The King is Dead," of course.
Perfect. I love it. That's fantastic. Is there anything else you want to add?
Just one more thing. Octavius, he has his journal, and he wants to kind of end things on a high note. But ever since his interaction with the Queen, that one part of himself that he's repressed over these years, the one part of himself that, well, I guess backing up just a tiny bit, you remember how the play, the Virtuous Woman, it's based a little bit on Octavius's life. Well, what happened was, before Octavius became a famous playwright, he tried writing morality plays. He was actually a decently upright religious follower of Pelor, and he tried making a living off of these plays. And he was completely unsuccessful. His wife grew resentful of him since she had to become the breadwinner because of his incompetencies. And, well, Octavius still needed the warm comfort of a woman who appreciated him. He found a woman who found his words rather fanciful, and he basically had a mistress at that point. Well, when his wife discovered that, in cold, just immediate, instant reaction, murdered his mistress in cold blood. His wife then, realizing this horrible thing that she had just done, took her own life. So then before Octavius stood two women, and a normal person would have just broken down. And Octavius did, but kind of in a different way. Rather than breaking down in tears, his mind kind of snapped and something awoke inside of him. He somehow found this this death of these two women near and dear to him something of a inspiration, if you could say that. And well, he realized that true inspiration came from blood, and by blood he would build a new self, a new persona, and new plays. Well, the rest is history, and Octavius, since his interaction with the Queen, since seeing the princess rise to power, or at least not, maybe not rise to power, but at least have an effect on this new city that he's living in, he just couldn't irk off that old self that he had been able to repress all these years, but recently he wasn't able to. So what Octavius did was he wrote in his journal the same book that Aiden stole earlier but gave back. He wrote in that over all the pages, I have sinned, and what I have done to myself in this city is unforgivable. And he killed himself shortly after the premiere of his magnum opus. And however, even though he wrote that in his book, his blood from his own body eventually seeped onto the cover of his book, and the enchantment on the invisible ink in there revealed all his works. So, in blood, you can see everything horrible that he has written.
I love it.
But in normal ink, you can see written over that blood his confession. And that is the life of Octavius, Artaud, the playwright.
That is fantastic. Super dark, but very, very appropriate. All right.
Sorry that took a while. Feel free to take as much time with yours if we have the time.
No, that was epic. I loved it. I couldn't have done anything better. That was epic. Okay, Dominique, if you have any last words for the princess, you go ahead and add those in. And what does Dominique do, in the coming days and weeks?
So when you say last words to the princess, do you mean like she's brought back safely and is okay, or?
Yep, she's brought back safely. She is, at least at this point in time, going to live. it comes down to your words are, at least in part, going to affect what her final decision is going to be, whether to lead the city or not.
Okay, I would like to speak to her then. Okay. Well, I would tell her that so long as innocent people in the city were not harmed in any way, I would support her decision to either be on the throne or to escape the city and help her any way that I could to do either task. As her sister who agrees our dad was not very good at for either of us.
Whoa.
Who said whoa?
That's why I laughed.
There
That's
was
why I thought it was weird.
a point in the campaign where the reveal made sense for my character, but it doesn't make sense to not address it with the princess.
Wait, hold on.
Oh.
I get cut out. I missed the reveal. What happened?
Go ahead, Dominique.
Oh, Dominique, when she spoke to the princess, would say that she would support whatever she wanted to do as long as innocents in the city weren't harmed, as her sympathetic sister who was in agreement that their dad was terrible in multiple ways.
Oh my gosh!
There's intrigue here.
Okay. I believe
It's turning into the Fast and the Furious. It's all about family.
All right, I think we're next on to Iona. What would be your Dominique? What would you do? What would be the next couple of days and weeks for Dominique? What would you be doing? Or is there anything you would want to add?
I'm actually not certain because I think what I would be doing would kind of depend on what the princess decided, because Dominique is still mostly concerned with the city getting stabilized. Whatever that entails, and she did just promise the princess she'd also help her out with whichever goal she wanted to seek for herself.
Okay.
So, like, I kind of think anything I would do would be contingent on responses to that.
Okay, perfect. That works.
So,
That's just fine. I will go to Iona then. Go ahead.
I'm going to face the princess and... Well, actually, I have one question. How old is she?
11.
I'm going to face the princess and say, well, either you leave and live out your life being a relatively normal person, or you dedicate your life to making a new monarchy, a new era, and do things right. Either way, I will support you in doing that, but if you deviate, I will be your worst enemy.
Okay.
And I hope that you choose wisely. I hope to be an advisor and a friend instead of an enemy. But the lives of so many in the city depend on you and your choices. And she weaves, right? She knows how to weave.
Yes, very, very well. Yeah.
Yeah. And you weave with such prowess, but that can also be a blessing or a curse upon you and the city. But that blessing is dependent on you. That curse is dependent on you and how you use your powers. And I hope that you deserve to live again. I know you're only 11. I know that a lot has happened to you. I'm sorry for those wounds. But I hope within your heart you choose whatever will make you happy with all your heart. Because you can't half-ass either one. So
Perfect. Thank you.
I
What
give
is
her-
our- Oh, good.
I give her a nod, like of respect, and give like a little bow, but not too deep. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be trying to talk to the underground, talk to the leaders of it, and try and find out, as the leaders of the community, what is needed, what is wanted, and be working to pull the city tighter than before and hopefully heal better than before. Although we'll never truly be able to tell that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe the next one is Rand.
Okay. What mainly went into Rand's decision making? So this is where we're revealing stuff in our backstory, right?
You
So we're
can
good to do that?
absolutely. If I was gonna have a little bit of time after to kind of do a little bit of question answer, share either cool moments or share, hey, this was my these are some of my things that some of my motivations, or so these are some of the secrets that I had, or things like that, or just do a little bit of that after as well. But if you want to reveal some of the backstory now, you absolutely can.
Okay. Well, yeah. As far as it would go with Rand, if the queen, or sorry, if the princess did decide to stay, um, he would definitely just support her in whatever endeavors he could to help clean up the city and that. And the primary motivations for that, I'm just going to go into it because screw it. I can't really describe it very well without going into backstory. So Rand had, for a very long time, of course, like ever been, was raised by an incredibly strict and pretty abusive father. And that definitely helped shape his demeanor a bit. He always takes things very seriously. He definitely has trouble seeing the humor in a lot of situations, I suppose. Um, and being a man that was a prominent figure of the class and of the Weavers, he was certainly always very pragmatic about how he handled business. He, a lot of the times, had to overlook things that maybe weren't great things to do for the class, under the guise of the safety of the city or just, for the Weavers. Like, this is the price of progress, like of doing bad things for maybe good reasons. And for a while, he definitely tried his best to ignore it. He tried to be as pragmatic as possible, to know that his emotions shouldn't get in the way of what's going to be best for the kingdom. But uh, after a long time, it really just started to erode away at him. And I think mainly the breaking point was seeing what the queen had gone through, and then seeing what the princess had gone through, and just seeing that if she were to die here, there is so much there's so much injustice that wouldn't be corrected. And I think that it really caught up to Rand in the end, with just all the decisions he's made, so many terrible things that he's now coming to terms with, that he realizes that he's done. That were maybe for good reasons, or maybe he thought they were good reasons, but either way, he just became sick of it. He became sick of it all, of making so many of these terrible decisions that just made him feel awful, in the guise of, well, this is what's pragmatic, this is what's practical, this is what's going to work. Um, so that was definitely the main turning point for me, for him. I definitely was trying to be very, very reasonable and, like, logically minded with him. Um, but yeah, just as that was happening, and just realizing, like, just the weight of things that happened with the princess, and that just wore away at him too much, and he made a decision that he's going to make his last practical, quote unquote, decision now. Or sorry, that he could make another practical decision, or he could stop that. And the king may have done a lot of good stuff with the queen's blood, um, and that, is a very practical thing. I'm sure the Weavers did make great use of that. but just the irony and the hypocrisy of it all just caught up to Rand, and yeah, that in the end is why I made the decisions that I made as him.
Perfect. I love it. Did you want to talk about what Rand would do after at all?
So, knowing what I know, that the princess was able to assume leadership of the clasp, and that they are still under the impression that that's the leader, um, I would have talked to her about using the Grim Fellows to exact vengeance upon all of those that wronged the queen. Um, and then I don't know. I suppose I would just try to do my best to help her out where I could. You know, I told the princess that I was going to make this kingdom better with her, that we were going to do this. So I would, you know, obviously I'm still a member of the King's Circle, so I'm life is just continuing on almost as normally as it was, with a few minor changes. I'm still supporting the royalty, and I'm still a weaver, but I think Rand is deciding to be a bit of a different person. But yeah, that's I think pretty much it. Not anything super special there.
Okay, love it though. Perfect. The Grim Fellows. The Grim so they. I think I think Parley's pulling in. One of the first prompts that I proposed was each of you actually acting as one of the Grim Fellows, who is the kind of the primary band of assassins under the clasp. They are kind of wet workers. So she was previously the head of the clasp. She being the what's it called, the princess. So I think it's possible that only Rand and Aiden knew that. She had.
I think that was in the information when we last was it 2 weeks ago when we were it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So yes, that is correct. She was the head of she had impersonated the head of the class for several years, and you know we can give a little bit of maybe it's not spoilers at this point in time. That's part of the reason why she wanted not Aiden, Eason dead, because she and why she had ordered both you, Sana, and Rand. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
I want my part too.
Good. Yeah, I'll pause. I'll pause. Yeah. I would say that would make sense that that's how you learned. Is it?
Oh, that makes a lot more sense because you were very suspicious of whether or not she could actually run the city, and like, what is a child going to do?
And that's what Rand was saying, was that she was okay. And then if Rand was there, Rand would be like, "See, I told you, she was smarter than you thought."
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. What did you say? I'm sorry. Can you say that again, please? Everything's being annoying. Okay.
Alright, perfect. Would Sana do anything else? I mean, we'll probably have a little bit of back and forth. In a bit. Okay. Okay. All right. Is that everything you wanted to do, Sana? Okay. All right. Cool. Right.
Can I clear up something real quick? I
Yeah.
forgot to say this. So real quick, with Harvale, what was it the queen that was causing him to have that like horrible, like dreamlike state that was causing him to self-harm?
We'll get into that. We'll get into what that actually was. Uh,
Because that would affect something that I do in my epilogue. But go on.
okay. Perfect. So I'll tell you about what the possession was in a bit, and I can go deeper into that in a second. Let's give Aiden his last bit, and then we can get into just kind of what happens with the princess, and we'll go into.
Well, there's Iona too, I think.
Oh,
Oh wait, she already went. No, I think she already went. Never mind. I may be forgetting.
Yep, you're last.
Okay. Well, tell me when. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Well, Aiden would reveal his true name to the queen, which is Alexander. I know it's not Aiden Laxer, it's a, anagram thing. And then he would probably bend the knee and would tell her that he is going to dedicate his time to rooting out. He heard parts of the conversation that Rand had with her in the dreamlike state and what she wants to accomplish. And he will tell her about the conversations that happened while she was asleep, how we were trying to Aiden was trying to convince, I'm brown nosing a bit, but trying to convince the rest of them to deal with the corruption and the badness of all of the different organizations who had wronged our family. And then presuppose some minor authoritative imperialism. As a new organization of Golden Cloaks, we can go around and start trials for all of the people who wronged her. I would humbly ask her to weave in the very essence of truth and justice into my badge and allow me to go around and be her personal inquisitor. I would enlist Rand's help in creating this new organization. Maybe if he wants to. We don't have to be a new organization. We could just, we could just do this stuff like Batman or whatever.
I think that
But-
there should be one gold cloak that leads the gray cloaks, and he keeps an eye on all of them and ensures that they remain ethical and just.
Yes, I can be that. Go ahead. I'm not done yet. Go ahead. But yes, if you're not gonna go ahead, I will finish and I will just say that he will go around and he will inquist people about their involvement in the corruption of the city. And he will attempt, with the power of his little sister and the guidance of her new council, whoever wants to stay and be a part of it, we will
I'm there.
inquist the entire. We're not trying to just remove the entire underbelly, as Octavius said. We are pruning here. There will be trials. They will not be public trials. No one will know what is going on in these trials, and they will not be able to lie because the room will be filled with truth and justice, and that's what's going to happen. And I will go around with my gold cloak, sneaking around and striking fear into people.
I love
Your
that.
vision of a bright future is absolutely repulsive.
I mean, you can still have your underbelly. You just
Well,
can't.
you're not going to live in it, Octavius. Why are you complaining?
I was gonna say I'd rather die than live in that kind of world, and I guess
Oh wait.
we all know what happened.
Look, you just can't. You can underbelly it up. You just can't underbelly towards the crown. That's not gonna happen. You just can't. No one's gonna be drinking fairy blood. We're going to. There's going to be a ban on anyone who has it. Strict punishments for anyone who has any of this drug remaining in the city. They are going to get woven into, I don't know, whatever's close by. I don't care. And we're going to confiscate all of it and return it to the new queen. The new queen. Long live the queen. Hail the queen. There we go.
All right. Okay. And last but not least, Enrique, what's your epilogue?
Is he even still here? I doubt he's even here. He's asleep.
He probably is asleep. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So, I did roll a dice to find out kind of what would happen with the queen, based off of everyone's kind of where they're leaning. Also based off of Taggart's really good diplomacy roll, kind of trying to convince her it's going to be better for you to leave. In my mind, at 60% or lower, she would decide to leave. Above a 60%, she would decide to stay and take on the challenges of being the queen. I rolled an 83. So
Everyone's getting inquisted. Sorry.
everyone's getting inquisted.
He puts the badge on himself. All right.
So with the assistance of her new gold cloak and gray cloaks, as well as a slew of other people from various parts of different factions and different pieces of the city, the queen would proceed to learn her role as well as to lead the city. Now, it wouldn't be without missteps, faults, assassination attempts, or failures. But as a whole, I view the city would start to grow and improve. And in time, a lot of the wounds that were made would start to heal. As she became, at least to the best of her ability, a good queen.
A
So-
tyrant. That's what we're going for.
This fills my heart with like actual overwhelming joy. And I feel like she's got a good circle, you know? She's got a lot of people with a lot of different perspectives, but all of us, you know, still worked together despite like very major differences. And I think that we make up a very good circle
Yeah,
for the queen.
absolutely. I thought that it actually turned out really well.
Can I just say that we do have sort of like an imperial. I mean, my sister Dominique over here. We're all one big family. We've got a master weaver. Well, the queen's a master weaver. I mean, there is some serious
I'm gonna be working
authoritarian.
against imperialism. It's just not great.
I mean,
Crazy.
it's not going to be that bad. I mean, it's not like we're creating like laws or making a certain group a disenfranchised group or anything.
Yeah, except for anybody who's ever crossed you, but we're gonna murder them.
Well, I mean, they chose their fate when they decided to snort fairy blood. Now they are getting the fist of justice.
I just want to say too, if I can just get some brownie points for this, I never drank any of that, and that's the Weaver. The Weaver never partook of the Queen's blood.
Let's
I
actually
did on accident.
let's actually talk about the Queen's blood real quickly. It was in the Queen's blood, unfiltered Queen's blood, that actually had the essentially what to some extent was almost like a parasite, and that parasite was born of essentially her grief, or the Queen's grief, pain, and hatred. And so essentially, if it was not removed or discovered, it would start to warp your reality and your perception, and your ability to make will saves would also decrease. So, and you'd become more susceptible as well as addicted to the substance and wish to partake of it more.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
welcome.
good.
Aiden.
That's why we're killing all these people now.
I
We're
saved you
leaving
from
them
a
in-
terrible fate.
Yes, you
No.
did.
Yeah, you did. So that's
I
what
missed so much of that. Oh, I have to like rewatch it now.
Oh wait, were you gone for me talking about how I'm making the gold cloaks and stuff?
I was gone a few seconds after. I was like, your vision of the future disgusts me.
Oh, you caught most of it.
so that's what happens there. Either any questions for me, or does anyone have any questions for anyone else? Does anyone want to share thoughts or things like, hey, this is some fun things that were behind the scenes or things like that?
I can tell you that from Aiden's perspective, the whole time he like idolized the king, and it was kind of like whiplash when he found out that like the king had done all of these things and was known all of this pain and stuff. So like, I don't think anyone, and plus the moment he had with the princess in the very beginning on the boat, like, I don't think that there was anything that was going to convince him that we should like kill the princess. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. I mean, maybe if you like would have waited a day, and that was like Aiden's plan was like, okay, I just found out all this crazy nonsense. She needs to sleep. I need to sleep. I didn't know about the poison. I was just gonna go to sleep and hope she woke up the next day.
I
And then
also-
Aiden would have been very upset and probably tried to kill him.
Like,
And-
if,
and I
if
do-
all of you had gone to bed, there was a very high likelihood that you'd wake up with her just dead.
So
and
I
that
didn't know
was
she was
possible.
poisoned.
I had a completely different session planned if she died, and you guys just went to bed and woke up. So that's why I asked when I started the session, asking if everyone just went to sleep.
I messaged Cameron and I was like, "Will she make it through the night?" And didn't you say, Cameron? You're like, "There's a high probability that she won't." Also, I do apologize for maybe being annoying with my information in the last part of this. There was a lot going on. People wanted a lot of different things, and I wasn't really sure of what information I should give out at any moment. Like, obviously, I do trust you guys, but you know, like we all wanted very different things, and I wanted to be careful with how I chose my words. I didn't want to swing either way. I didn't want to particularly influence anybody until we had all like made sure that we had discussed it. I didn't want to like dogpile on any one side. So I do apologize for being a bit stingy with info there. I'm sure that was annoying, and I also want to apologize. I hope I wasn't like the arbiter of like the decision. I didn't want to
No,
be
you weren't.
that. Okay, I wanted to
No,
make sure I
Aiden was-
included everyone.
Aiden was set. Aiden was set for like.
Also,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you saying
also,
that.
as a side note, Farley, do you want to tell them about what we discussed earlier this evening about the fact that there was a backup?
About what?
Do you want to tell everyone about the fact there was a backup?
Oh, yes. So the mask that I had received from the matron. So I show this and I let this I would give this to the princess. By the way, we can do that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a backup that the king had created, and it was from Matron Tesla and the mask that she gave me. That in essence would have been enough to bring the king back. And I was asked to put it on the princess's face, so that would have brought the king back and allowed him to possess her body and continue on living. And I only figured that out
Oh
tonight.
my gosh.
That
Octavius
was the
kinda
power of
gross.
the mask.
That was kind
Dom-
of gross.
Hold on,
Dominique
what?
helped.
Say that again. That what?
So the mask would have allowed the king's soul to come back, and he would have been able to possess the princess.
Oh, what
and
the fuck?
I do want to thank
Sorry.
Dominique as well. I was thrown off a bit by the mask too, but this just confirmed my suspicions. Dominique was able to. She sent me a message, and pretty much confirmed that yeah, the mask was not something to be trusted at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a side note, the princess knew about the mask and had enlisted a member of the clasp to attempt to steal it and destroy it because she was the leader of the clasp.
Ooh, sick.
Oh, the person who tried to kill the princess?
No, that was the spiraling of blade.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Oh wait.
the
So wait,
spiraling of blades was a patriot, by the way, Aiden. Don't you dare besmirch his name.
Oh my god, you poisoned the princess?
The reason, oh yeah, and I knew that, and that was like hard for me to keep that information in. But I was like, but okay, and that was Rand. That was Rand's practicality,
Aiden might have rolled initiative.
It was right, yeah, exactly. And I didn't want to start anything because I was like, Sa'ana definitely poisoned the princess, but my my practicality, I was like, that is a good move because like she was asleep. We had the time to sit there and discuss what the best course of action was, and then I was able to speak to her. Like that poison only worked in our favor.
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead. Yes.
And
Wow.
she rolled in that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
She would have died. Yeah.
Sayana wanted the throne? That's another
Oh,
reveal.
absolutely she did. Absolutely she did. And that's why
You
I was
little
fine with
sneaky
letting the
bitch.
that's why I
And
was
that's
fine
when
with letting the
Dominique's
princess
starting to
die.
support Aiden more than Sana.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I
Dominique
was
never
comfortable with
wanted
letting
the
her die,
princess
because
to die.
Saana was a safe bet. What?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
In case
So, as a side note, I had decided well in advance, like basically right when around the time that Parley had told me he was thinking about being a member of the clasp when we first were starting this. I had already decided that she was going to be have impersonated the leader of the clasp. So that had been decided that's decided months ago. So yeah. So
Hey,
and that's
Dude,
one of the things
Octavius is on the wrong freaking side. My gosh.
Aiden really didn't want the throne. He was actually trying to avoid it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Dominique was just like, there are dozens of us. If you try to take the throne, others are going to as well.
Well, I knew that there was a few because this badge only seems to work for royalty, and it came off of a dead Grey Cloak. So, like, there's at least two of us that, and
Well, I mean, I think the first session, some character that Cameron played mentioned there was like at least 20 of us or something. So, yeah,
there was a lot
there's
of
no telling.
bastards. There was a lot of
Dominique was the
people
Grey
who.
Cloak.
Well, I mean, he was very ambitious, and he wasn't
Genghis
exactly
Khan.
faithful to his wife. Who, I mean, look what he did to his wife.
Okay,
PvP
well,
was so close to.
the reason
Oh.
he can't have sex with her is his own fault, though. I'm sure his wife was extremely beautiful.
Yeah, but her blood was more valuable. See, and this is why, like, Aiden completely lost his like rose-colored glasses for his father as soon as he heard. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot to lose your rose-colored glasses to.
Well, I will say, Dominique never had rose-colored glasses about her father. She learned he was her father like a week before he died. And then it's like, oh, he had me raised in a criminal organization my whole life. What the heck? Like, whatever. Nothing
Guys,
rosy about this.
PvP almost happened. Like, we were just, like, moments away from the ending being totally different. But I think a few things happened that, well, one.
Sayana,
Wait, what?
Sayana never revealing that she was the one who poisoned the princess. Fine. No, I asked you what was wrong with her. That's what I said. I didn't ask you what you did.
Yeah, and I found that out like the moment we found her and she was being carried by Ileana, and I touched her, and I was like, "This is explosive information right here." And that's when I was like, I need to be so careful with if I let anybody know about this.
I thought there was going to be PvP last week or last time. I
I did
really
too.
did.
When that happened, I was like, "Oh crap! If Rand
Rand was
figures
ready
this
for
out,
it.
it's gonna
Rand-
be."
Rand was, as soon as you guys left, Rand was the entire time you were gone preparing to fight you guys as soon as you came out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Rand, just be polite, be efficient, and have a plan to kill everyone you meet.
I was against it. I was like,
That's the sniper from TF2. He says that.
for somebody who is in the Grey Cloaks, I was remarkably forgiving of a lot of you guys. Like, well, I was just honestly, I think that Aiden was just, overwhelmed by a lot of the stuff that was going on. Like, Grey Cloaks were popping up dead. The king's dead. The person he idolized is dead. The princess is missing, and he still thinks that she's mostly helpless. So, like, I don't know. It was. You guys were just hitting Aiden with a lot of like.
Aiden's whole worldview just warped in 1 week.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Aiden's whole worldview and life was warped all in 1 week.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's hilarious. Does anyone have any other questions about anything that they had questions on through the campaign that wasn't answered?
No.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah. So actually, So with regards to where we have the last campaign, where Eason and that so did Eason end up dying, or I don't remember what happened. I guess, or maybe I wasn't there.
For you mean the campaign with Patrick and everyone else?
Yes.
So so it didn't end up finishing, but in my head, I do have somewhat of a headcanon. I also find it, side note, mildly amusing. This was not my intent when I originally wrote this out, where evidently I put my players into life and death situations that involve them potentially murdering a child. Because this is the second time I've done that, but not intentionally.
Oh yeah, with Angel. Oh my gosh.
Not just with Angel, not just with murdering Angel, but remember back in the one of the primary cities in the Narrow Valley.
Oh yes.
In Gildenport, there was that necromancer who a piece of his wife's soul had been reborn into a child, and he was going to willingly basically let himself die if you'd bring back that piece of his wife's soul, so he could harvest it from the child and bring his wife back. And you guys spent a whole session talking about the morality of whether or not you should do that.
Listen, Deacon was willing to put the kid down, all right?
I don't remember. I think actually you were one of the you were really against it.
You're right. Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Point being,
we okay. To our credit, we never killed any children. We have we have a clean record. We are 3 out of 3 children alive.
3 out of 3 children are living.
I wasn't gonna let you do it this time. There was about to be combat.
Oh, I had an ace in the hole in case there was PvP.
Well, Sayana, by the way, Rand was prepared to go fisticuffs with me against you.
Why?
Wait, what?
Yes, but Rand was ready for you to try and kill. Hold on, what did he say? There's a chance I may be able to save your sister. Can I count on you to help me if things turn for the worse?
Oh, yeah.
Listen,
I
I was playing every side. Okay, this was not favoring you, Aiden. Don't think that.
Well, I was
Right,
thinking about
yes.
telling you too, Aiden. So don't worry. And also, I know how to weave, but I just don't like weavers. So
You were my you Aiden were my backup in case like I was able to save the princess, but if I thought that Saana was going to be too greedy and still try to make a gambit for the throne, even though things would be perfectly all right.
I was really trying to figure out why Sayana was really trying to make
then-
sure that the princess didn't wake up.
And then I didn't tell you about the poison though, because I did agree with Saana. I think Rand still thinks that if Saana took the throne, things would have been good. Rand has faith in Saana's leadership and that she would have been a good ruler. However, like from what I said before from his backstory, that like all those things just caught up with him, and he was sick of making these practical decisions, of making bad decisions for potentially good reasons. Otherwise, if he wouldn't have had any kind of change or anything like that, he would have just gone with Saana's plan right from the get go and would have just been like, "Yeah, she's poisoned, Aiden. We're gonna kill you now because you stand in our way." But
Well-
yeah, I was trying to play every side.
I'll tell you, Aiden was particularly moral at the end just because, like, he knew that the king had been doing bad things, but he didn't know that bad. And after he heard that, he was like, you know what? We're going to get some justice. That's what's going to happen. Justice is happening, even if I have to, like, force it down people's throats. That's what's happening now. That is what's happening now. We are having morality. None of this draining women to death and using her blood as a drug to stay alive forever. That is not happening anymore.
Well, and that was also why I made the decision that I did with Rand as well. Like, that really hit heavy with him, the whole blood situation, because like for the longest time, like one of the greatest arguments that the circle was able to use against us is that like we're immoral and we don't think about the people that we're hurting and that. And like right there, like he was able to know that that was exactly true, making use of that blood and like those vials, that like you could get addicted to. So that was also a reason that like I really wanted to right that wrong. I as Rand felt personally responsible, even though I don't know if Rand ever did use the blood itself or like I don't think he did like knowingly at least ever. And he never
Aiden
drank
felt
the
personally
potion.
responsible too. Sorry, but yes.
And yeah, and like over the course of Rand's career, again, like he's done some gray kind of stuff, and he's made mistakes, and that's also why I was able to more see past a bit from the princess's wrongdoings, is because like Rand's not clean himself. He can't pretend like he's a paladin and he's he can do no wrong. So I think that was also why I had a bit more sympathy on her than like I don't know. I would have like if I was Nomad, for example. I think Nomad would have been a lot more uncompromising. Would have been like, yeah, it's tragic what happened to you, but what you've done is horrible, and you need to pay the price. I think, ironically, Rand, because of everything that happened, is a lot more merciful than Nomad for something like this. Anyways, though, sorry to ramble.
No.
If for I guess it would be mostly Tiger, Erica, and Parley. So essentially, because this takes place, quite a bit after the events of my previous campaign. In my mind, eventually Zaremith, the King Without Scars, was killed, as well as there was essentially when the revelation came out that the gods that people worshipped were, for the most part, products of just powerful weaving, essentially. essentially these people, a lot of the gods were taken out and killed, and so this entered an age where weaving dampened significantly, but there was still a fair amount of it going on. But it also allowed for other influences, things, for instance, from the Fey realm and things like that, to kind of more influence the world. And that weaving in general can be bolstered or affected by other things, not just what was discovered in the Narrow Valley, but also other entities such as Archfey and things like that can have an effect on that as well.
That's really cool.
So
Okay.
that's kind of what in my head, kind of how I resolve the story, just because it never ended. So, yeah.
Okay. Um.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Oh, yeah. I was just gonna say. Yeah. I loved playing Deacon. I love that you let me
It was great.
gather all those mythological creatures, and oh man, if only I could have. If we could have gone long enough for that, that phoenix that was like merged with like thunder to grow. Like I enjoyed sniping from my plant dragon above in combat. Oh man, and then like he could swallow me and like take me underground. That was just the best. All those I just got so ridiculous with all the like animals. Like just collecting all of them. Like I don't know what possessed me all of a sudden with Deacon to just be like, can I tame this one? And all that crap.
Deacon was a Pokemon master. He really and he was focused on evolving his Pokemon.
Oh, absolutely.
So that he could kill gods. Yeah, that was essentially the plot of the last campaign.
It was a fun character. Well, yeah. I mean, this sucks. Writing the tales of such a good ending to my campaign. I'm so worried about it.
I'm excited for yours as well.
I hope I can make it interesting.
Wait, Cameron,
I
are
don't
you
want to
gonna
be
be
out here
there?
wasting anyone's time.
I
You
am
can-
going to be joining.
Nice.
So yeah,
Cameron's playing a droid. What?
No, I thought I'm not playing a droid.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I don't think so. I think that's about it. Okay.
Goodbye.